Deep in the heart of the Amazon rainforest, surrounded by endless towering trees and winding rivers, stands the Teatro Amazonas, one of the most magnificent opera houses ever built. Its story begins during a time when this remote corner of Brazil was generating more wealth than most European capitals. In the late 1800s, the world was experiencing a rubber revolution. Cars, bicycles, and industrial machinery all needed rubber, and there was only one place to get it: the Amazon rainforest. Rubber comes from the latex sap of rubber trees, which workers would tap by making cuts in the bark and collecting the milky liquid in containers. Manaus, located deep in the Brazilian Amazon, became the center of this boom. European traders and settlers, particularly from Portugal and other colonial powers, had established themselves in the region and controlled much of the rubber trade. Local workers would collect the rubber, but the profits flowed to these European merchants and the Brazilian elites who had moved to the area to capitalize on the boom. Many of these local workers, especially indigenous people and poor migrants, labored under brutal conditions. Often coerced through debt or violence, they worked long hours in extreme heat and isolation, under what was essentially a system of forced labor known as the aviamento system. The wealth was extraordinary. Rubber barons in Manaus became some of the richest people in the world. They would send their laundry to be washed in Paris and light cigars with money. The city earned the nickname Paris of the Tropics because of its sudden prosperity. The idea to build the Teatro Amazonas came from the rubber barons themselves, who wanted to create a symbol of their newfound wealth and cultural sophistication. They envisioned bringing European high culture to the Amazon, proving that their remote city could rival Paris or Vienna. Construction of the Teatro Amazonas began in 1884, but this wasn't going to be an ordinary building. The theater was designed by Brazilian engineer Gabriel dos Santos, who worked closely with European architects and craftsmen to ensure that every detail reflected the grand aesthetic of the time. They imported roofing tiles and furniture from France, marble from Italy, and steel from England. The project took 15 years to complete, with several pauses when funding ran short. One of the most interesting details was the driveway, which was paved with rubber so that late arriving carriages wouldn't disturb the performances with their noise. When the theater finally opened on December 31st, 1896, it was magnificent. The dome was covered with 36,000 hand-decorated ceramic tiles representing the colors of the Brazilian flag. The interior seated 701 people in Renaissance revival splendor that could compete with any European opera house. For a brief period, the Teatro Amazonas was exactly what its creators envisioned. European opera companies traveled to Manaus to perform for audiences that included the rubber barons, their families, European merchants, and wealthy Brazilian elites who had moved to the region. Despite being in the middle of the jungle, these performances attracted a sophisticated crowd dressed in the finest European fashions, many of whom had traveled from other parts of Brazil and even Europe to attend. The theater became the social center where the wealthy would see and be seen, proving that culture and sophistication could flourish even in the remote Amazon. Hey, wait a second. If you want to keep learning stuff to get a bit smarter every day, we wanted to invite you to subscribe to our channel real quick and comment it down below so you get our response. But the rubber boom wasn't built to last. In 1876, a British explorer had smuggled rubber seeds out of Brazil. By the early 1900s, British colonies in Malaysia and other parts of Asia were producing rubber more efficiently and cheaply than the Amazon. The Brazilian rubber monopoly collapsed almost overnight. The rubber barons fled Manaus, taking their wealth with them. The Teatro Amazonas, which had been a symbol of prosperity and culture, was left largely abandoned. For decades, it sat empty while the jungle humidity and tropical climate took their toll on the ornate decorations and imported materials. The story could have ended there, but in 1990, the Brazilian government undertook a major restoration project. They carefully restored the original decorations, repaired the imported materials, and brought the theater back to its former glory. The reopening was marked by a performance featuring Plácido Domingo, one of the world's greatest opera singers. Since then, the Teatro Amazonas has hosted an annual Amazon Opera Festival and regularly features performances by international artists. This is the end of the video. Hope you learned something new with us today. Please give a big thumbs up if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel to keep getting enriched from our content and share the video with someone you know will like it.